We don't have Sarah, our occasional.
Our triad. What do we say? Triad.
Um,
Or
I'm the denominator.
a coven makes three. Is that?
Just don't call me common.
Oh,
Math jokes.
math. Oh, I didn't even get that because I don't math.
I think I get to go first actually today.
Yeah, because I wasn't here last time, so I'm not sure what you all did. It's fine by me.
We should listen because
I can't
it was
wait.
personal trauma I shared.
Oh gosh. Oh, to the last episode. Oh,
Yeah.
I saw the topic, which makes sense that it's personal trauma.
All right. So this is something that's been in the news quite a bit because unfortunately cases have been on the rise. Have you heard about sextortion?
Only through my topic when I was had talked about the webcam stuff.
There's a related here, and this also relates to one of my past topics too. So last year in 2022, two 17-year-old high school students killed themselves. One was Jordan DeMay and another was James Timothy Woods. They lived in separate states, didn't know each other. But what they had in common is they were both the victims of sextortion plots against them. So these are dangerous scams that have led to at least 20 teen suicides in the last couple of years. At least. It's definitely underreported.
I have, I actually know someone who is dealing with that with their child right now, where the child's sending photos, and that was discovered by parents, and parents like that is child pornography. Like if you're sending it and no, it's not. And then the parent desperately trying to get through to the teenager, like, you don't know how it's going to be used on the other end at all. Ever. It could get put to one wrong person. That's all it takes.
So I went to our Homeland Security website, ice.gov.
As we do.
I like to go to the source. So predators are using, cell phones. Every teen has a cell phone to blackmail them. So sextortion is the act of threatening to share nude or explicit images, and it's targeting right now 14 to 70-year-old boys. Mm-hmm. And it's really increased exponentially in the last 2 years. Why do you want the camera so close to us?
I just feel like it was so far away. Like we were just little blips in the background.
Blips. Blippity blip. So Homeland Security investigated 3,000 sextortion tips last year, 2022.
Can I just say I really don't like the word sextortion?
You can rename it if you want.
Oh, I'll think about it.
So this targets, like I said, 14 to 17-year-old boys mainly, and it's adults who are pretending to be young girls, and they pretend that they're romantically interested in the boys. They may connect with them on gaming platforms, Instagram, other apps, and
gosh, my mind went straight to incels again.
So it starts simply enough. They're like, they start this contact, and it's always like the girl is super cute and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So obviously, teenage boy is going to be perked. Interest will be perked.
Ew, I don't like that word either. Not in this context.
And so eventually they convince the kid to send some kind of explicit, either a photo or video. And as soon as that happens, all of a sudden the tables are flipped, and this person will threaten to expose them,
ask for money.
They may actually send the photo to others or just threaten it. So they may be at first asking for more explicit photos, or they start demanding money.
That's where I think the overlap with the webcam one came in too, where sometimes they didn't even have the photos, but they just threatened it. And I could see how a teenager who maybe didn't know any better would maybe panic, like, oh gosh, they have something, because I'm sure they have sent photos, so it's much to somebody,
No, they have. So these are, they do
These ones
convince them to
have
send either a
specifically done
photo
it.
or video.
Yeah.
And so the panic is real.
Yeah.
So teens, I mean, I work with teens, you work with teens. Every day the world begins and ends. So, from adult perspective, you might think, well, it's not the end of the world.
Temporary.
Like, we can figure it out. Nobody's going to care about this in 6 months.
We'll sue them.
But the teen brain is like, this is life threatening. This is devastating.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I am actually absolutely going to have my life ruined. And
everyone will know.
So that's why
ruined.
It's been leading to suicides, which is tragic.
Right. That social anxiety with teens, that I think there's like developmentally appropriate social anxiety, and then there's all the systems that we have that amplify it, like state testing, competition, like all those clothes, money.
Yeah. So traditional sextortion occurs when the victim is blackmailed into providing more sexual imagery. And then the predator threatens to share these with the public. And then financial sextortion occurs when a predator demands money or gift cards or something in exchange for not sharing their sexual images with friends or family or just like the world. So right now, it's this financial sextortion that's on the rise over the last couple of years. So 79% of predators right now are seeking money after they have like that first sexual imagery to blackmail folks with. So this is what they do. They develop a false rapport with the victim. So they come in, like I said, cute girl. They may hack an existing account or just create an entirely false account. They will
catfishing.
They may
catfish.
And this is where it kind of links with your webcam. They may either secretly record during chats or they may just outright ask for videos or photos to come to them.
It's so easy to have happen. Like I've known people who, like, just chat rooms in general, where you may find people who are having a hard time connecting socially in the quote unquote real world. And like they, I knew someone who would specifically extort people. So like, show me whatever, and then would save the photos to use against them later. Like, it was not good.
Well, what I thought it was interesting about the two boys that I told you about is they were both extremely popular. One was Homecoming King, the other one was like Track Star. So I was thinking about that, and I'm wondering if they were particularly targeted because they were popular and would have more to lose in their minds, and so would be more vulnerable to the threats. Like, they did have this great life, everything their parents could give them, and so that's
and it could amplify,
like, you could
the impact.
lose all of that. Versus if somebody's already like an outsider, they're like, I don't fucking care, do what you want.
Right. Well, and I
don't have friends that are going to give a fuck. I don't even have a friend maybe to send my nude photo to.
Right. And linking to my topic today, there's may also be some aspect of pressures that are already there on them to be and look a certain way.
Are our topics already linked?
Yeah, they're already linked. Easy peasy.
So sometimes the predators will threaten to kill themselves if the victim refuses.
That's my pet peeve.
They definitely go through social media profiles. They want to find out about the victim to know like who's important in their life, because they'll come in sometimes and say, hey, I'm a friend of this person, and that's how they gain the trust initially. So they're like, oh, okay. I can trust this person.
One of our mottos here is don't trust anyone.
Trust no one, question everything.
Yes. All the time. Most of the time, maybe.
So it starts off like compliments, flattery, flirty kind of stuff, like normal. And if they come in like through a gaming platform, it's like there's already like that common
interest
thing that you can talk about.
Well, and I'm curious too, like, are they actively playing games, or because sometimes, like, if you go on to say like Twitch, an online gaming platform, you you don't have to be a gamer to be on there and to be a fan and talking and communicating. So you can really quickly get into a group of people, make it look like you've been there the whole time.
Yeah.
And never even play the game.
Well, if somebody messaged me on Instagram and be like, oh, I know Macy. Yeah, she's super cool. I just wanted to say hi. I would believe them.
Oh yeah, no, I'm like,
I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah, I actually had that happen recently. Oh, someone said, oh, yeah, that's me.
So sometimes they start on one platform and then
move
to another that makes
more discreet.
It like there's encrypting, and it makes tracking their crimes more difficult. So sextortionists, like I said, they will secretly record and preserve entire chats and videos. And this is just to have more ammunition. So let's talk about what happened with 17-year-old Jordan DeMay. So he was homecoming king last year, and he receives a message from Instagram account. It appeared to be a teenage girl. And this whole thing took 6 hours from first contact to when he was driven to kill himself.
Wow.
So it wasn't a girl. In reality, it was 3 Nigerian men. They were brothers, and they were part of an online extortion ring, and they were using the teenage female name Danny Roberts, and they'd contacted other people.
I had a family member who was in close contact with someone and developing friendship and asked me to like do some vetting. I'm like, well, have you seen him on video? No. Went and looked at the profile. They're a Marine. They're like buff, but they have so many friends, and some of the comments are really odd and just generic. And so I had her set up a video call, and they were like, oh, it won't work. And then all of a sudden
red flag. It
popped up, and there was literally a straw hut, dirt, and like 3 dudes in the background, like trying to
Maybe it was see. These 3 dudes.
Maybe it was like it looked like, and it was almost like it was
an
accident, because I think they were trying to not get on the camera and make excuses, but like, oh, it's not working, and it flashed on. I was like, no.
It may have eventually turned into some kind of sextortion.
Well, because what's the term that used to be used?
Blackmail
prince thing that.
Oh, the Nigerian prince. You did a whole topic on it.
I know that. I think that's why it's coming to my mind.
Yeah. So Danny ultimately would goad Jordan to die by suicide. Jordan's mother said, I feel like he was tortured and forced to put his gun to his head, or it would ruin his life in his mind. So that's what I was speaking about. Like, he's super popular kid, played on the football team, homecoming king. And over the course of the 6 hours from when he sent this photo, he really believed that his life was over. And so FBI says there were over 7,000 cases reported last year, but he thinks it was actually over 100,000 cases.
Right, underreported.
Because it's underreported. That's just last year, 1 year. And like I mentioned, over 20 minors have died by suicide because of these extortion scams. So this is serious business. So with Danny, quote unquote Danny, which is really 3 Nigerian brothers, talking to Jordan, he actually said, when they looked through all of the chats, he said, is this a scam? And they were like, no. And then he eventually did send that compromising photo, and that everything changed at that moment. Suddenly he was being threatened that the photos would be sent to Jordan's friends and family until it goes viral, quote unquote. And they asked for $1,000 from Jordan. This is a teenager. So he did send $300, which was all he had, but that didn't stop it. and he did 6 hours later from when this all started, he did kill himself. So law enforcement tracked that IP address to Nigeria, and they say many of these online sextortion scams are run out of the country. So along the Ivory Coast and the Philippines. And these 3 brothers were linked to 100 other victims.
Wow.
In the US. So they were extradited, brought into the US, and charged in May this year.
I like it. How does jurisdiction work there?
Yeah, they brought them in.
Good.
So that other 17-year-old I mentioned, these are just 2 examples, but I do want to like highlight actual people to put a human face to the story. 17-year-old high school track star, super friendly, popular, positive, and he killed himself in last November. He was contacted on Instagram again. So these are both Instagram. Watch out if you're on Instagram, by an attractive young quote unquote woman. And they got, screen capped some naked images from the video chat and began threatening him. They first asked for $6,000, but then dropped it down to $3,000 because, this is a kid. He was open about that. Like, yeah. So, but he gave everything he could. He had $100 iTunes gift card. He gave that. And then this person just bombarded James. He got 200 messages in less than 20 hours. They just went on and on and on, wouldn't stop. They said he would be labeled a pedophile. They said his parents wouldn't love him. He wouldn't be able to go to college or get a job. They would hurt or kill his parents. So
wow.
You're going to spiral at that point.
Yeah.
And then they said, you might as well end it now.
Well, because that gets rid of their evidence and someone complaining about them, like, how did they get rid of the fact that they did it in the first place? That's so awful. So
I believe these boys, this teenage mind, you just feel like you don't have another choice. They don't have, like, their brain, the neuroscience of it is you don't see that, things will feel better after this emotional threat dies
and that's
down.
So scary because these people are far away. There's nothing tangible you can do about it. You can't tell your parents because you've done something wrong in the first place. You don't want to admit to your friend, like, you're so alone so fast.
Right. Who do you reach out to?
Maybe we need to create a hotline.
Well, you'll see in a second here. Both families started online support groups.
And I was going to say it was going to have to be us otherwise.
They go out and they do public speaking and they're advocating, they're pivoting their grief to action, which is the best way to go about things. This kid did say, why are you doing this? I'm only a kid. Isn't that sad? He was like, how do I make it stop? So the family created the Do It for James Foundation. The other family created the I Got You Foundation, because just really trying to make something positive out of just a horrible tragedy. And so in the first case, they have the 3. This second case, it's just they have not figured out who's behind it.
Right.
So sextortion is illegal.
I'm trying to think of a better name. I just don't like it for sex.
Okay, I'm gonna try to read this.
Okay, go ahead. Do you want me to try? You want me to read it?
I thought it would expand. Okay. So these are things you can do to avoid.
Okay. Oh, let me.
It's very small.
Why didn't you press the plus button? Oh, because then it distorts it?
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Okay.
I'm happy.
Okay, here we go. How to avoid online scams for sexual images, because I haven't come up with a better word yet. Number 1, make your social media private. Don't assume it's private. Don't. Did you know your main profile picture on Facebook, everything's private. That one thing will
It's not
always be
private.
public. Always be public. Block or ignore strangers. There's actually a setting that allows it to auto get rid of
Even
those
if they're
folks.
cute.
Well, and
So they know your friends.
that's why you want that auto feature, because you don't want to be tempted
No.
by the muscles or the boobs.
But Instagram has that like second layer of messages where you can be like,
Yeah, and
they're like
which is still
indirect or
perfect.
something. Like, what do they call it? I don't know. But it's like a
Direct
category for
messaging.
people that
Oh, mhm.
don't know
No,
you.
you can turn that off.
You can?
I have it off
Oh,
where
okay.
I can't be I can't be contacted by anyone who is not within my current friends list.
Okay.
I just like, I don't care. Like if I don't know you, and I think I have it like friends of my friends, but not acquaintances. Don't need you. All right. Then here we go. Number 3, be suspicious if asked to move to video chat or an encrypted platform. That's hard because that does come up. I have used chat sites in the past with talking with friends, and they're like, if you want to talk with just your friends, you do have to leave a bigger platform and either go to a smaller room or go to a different platform that's just easier to use. So make sure you know and have vetted the people.
Make sure.
And make sure that you've done, like, is this a site you trust? How do you know that you trust it? Check into that. You're smart. We know you're smart, teens. You're smarter than us. Okay, remember that people can pretend to be anything or anyone online.
That's a part that I think is tricky for people to believe.
That's one of the themes too that we've come across.
Because if you're a teen,
Right.
you really do feel like you know what's going on and you can handle it yourself.
Well, and we want acceptance so bad. I would say throughout our lives that the second somebody's like unconditionally accepting of you, it's like, I'll let anything slide.
Well, and you think you know what's going on and like you would be able to tell,
Right. And then those poor kids end up getting attachment issues as they grow up, and then they get blamed before like it's this. Okay, remember, videos and photos are not proof that a person is who they claim to be.
Yeah, I'd say unless it's a live video, maybe that would be the only way. I think.
I would say a live interactive.
Yeah,
video.
interactive.
So I do not even trust like a pre-recorded set. Like, hey,
no. It has to be like you can ask them a question like, "How do you feel about celery?"
However, now with new like the technology is advancing so quickly for
terrifying.
auto responses and stuff.
That's why you gotta ask weird shit.
Yeah, but sometimes again, people blinders. You just put on your trust blinders.
I know. With teens, okay, first of all, you think you're invincible and you know everything.
And oxytocin.
You are super horny and super emotional, and like I said, worlds begin and end every day. So like danger and risk is way more extreme when you're
minors do not get in trouble with the law enforcement for sending coerced nudity. So like, don't be afraid to ask for help, because I think that's part of it. Is like, I did something wrong versus you won't get in trouble. Like, let someone know.
But then again, that like what I just said, like that's difficult for teens because that sense of risk and danger is so escalated that you really are going to feel like,
and if there's a sense of
you're
doubt,
in trouble,
right? And if there's a sense of doubt, well, I don't know for sure, and I don't want to get her in trouble because
that's why kids don't go to their parents hardly ever.
Well, and this just brought up for me, back when we assisted at the high school that had that school shooting, and one of the like saddest things I heard was some of the male students just tore up about the fact that they went and hid and didn't protect the girls that got hurt. Like, where is that written that like your self-preservation in that moment of a very deadly situation matters less? That's like, that's a social.
It's social norms versus instincts, and they're not
right.
They're not always going to match up.
No,
you don't know how you're going to respond in the moment.
You gotta unlock it, and it's great.
In the moment you are not in control.
It's great to help people. However, what we know in crisis stuff, like if 1 is less than 2. Basic math, I know that. So if you were going to put yourself in the exact same harmful situation where you could potentially help get law enforcement there or do something else that's helpful, but just running out there may not be as helpful as you think it
Well,
is.
I don't think you really
There's so much guilt and
you're not
shame.
well, you're not thinking in those moments.
No,
it's not a conscious
terrifying.
decision. It's all automatic, instinctual stuff.
And then it's just after, and then you get questions from people like, what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know how you're going to react if you haven't been in a situation. Some people are going to run towards something. Some people are going to run away. Some people are going to freeze.
And I think that's the same thing here is like, this may not seem life-threatening, but it will feel life-threatening for them. This is everything.
For
like
the teenage brain. Yeah.
So report any extortion.
And that's easier said than done, I think.
Correct. I just did a thing. Oh, there you go. I got them back. Do not delete any evidence before law enforcement.
And then again, I think that's hard because you want to delete it. I think that's your natural reaction. You're like, oh, delete.
Going to be pictures of you.
Delete, right?
Right. That'd be the first thing I do. No. But they may need that.
Hide the evidence, but yeah.
And I would say, I mean, like, I get that, and the police can probably pull those records. So, I mean, they're probably going to get it anyways.
Yeah, we've talked about how if we're ever involved in a murder case, all of our texts and chats and everything are just going to be like blown up on a screen in court.
With my carrier, they keep all like the records and times, but they don't they purge out all of the actual data, which I thought was interesting. So they're like, there's like who you called, what number, the length of the call, but they purge it out, and then every 6 months they purge that information out.
But do you think it's still there if like it got subpoenaed for a murder case?
I actually sat and read through their whole thing, and it's like, I think that's Google Fi's way of putting some limitations around what the government can request of them, because if they do that, then there's only so much they can give, I think.
I don't trust it.
I mean, yeah. Regardless. Sorry, I stop? I think there was.
I can't read it, so I'll assume you did them all.
I didn't, but that's okay. We were close.
Okay. I mean, really, the takeaways is
don't.
I know it's hard, but tell your folks. Tell some.
Go to the school counselor.
Yeah, somebody.
Will keep it, like respectful and help you as discreetly as possible. And if they don't, then tell the administrator. Some
trusted adult that can help you out.
Right.
Even though it's going to be hard, like you'll feel better after you say something. If you want to know more, check out ice.gov. That's a real website name.
Wasn't that? Never mind. What different topic. Go ahead.
It stands for immigration something.
That's what I thought. Okay, okay. Which makes sense if it's happening externally, internationally.
And then on Hulu, there's a brand new Impact and Nightline that just got released on Sextortion.
So our topics are
a combination of extortion and sex. That's it's the portmanteau.
I don't know where that word comes from.
It's like J-Lo.
Portmanteau.
It's where you combine two words together.
But J-Lo's a name.
Well, Jennifer Lopez. It's a combination of first and last. J-Lo is not her fucking name.
I didn't know that. I'm not a J-Lo fan. I couldn't even name a song, honestly.
But there's lots of portmanteaus. That's just one example that just came to mind.
I can't think of any. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
So our topics are linked in a lot of ways. I love that.
Everything's connected.
Everything's connected. I'm still learning my phone. One thing I wish that they would. I
love how we both have foldy phones.
I know. I do like it. One thing I'm not a huge fan of the button being my thumbprint thing instead of the screen, because I have short little thumbs. So I feel like it's a little extra effort to get up there, and then it's a little bit of a struggle. Look,
I use my pointer.
Look, so my thumb doesn't reach. I know I've gotten feedback on that. Use your pointer, but my pointer's longer than that.
I just do that.
But I don't want to do that.
Okay.
don't like it.
It just is organic for me because I'm holding my phone like that anyway. So
See, but like there's this edge here, and then my thumb hits this edge, and it doesn't give enough of a print, so I have to like adjust, and then I'm like, this shouldn't take this effing long to get into my. Oh, now I'm locked out. Now I have to do this, and then I was like, I'm gonna
what
do.
if you used your pointer?
But okay, so I use my pointer. Oh, hold on. Okay, so if I use my pointer finger,
Yeah,
it still hits this edge. That
yeah.
makes it a challenge. And this is my finger that got slammed in the car
That's
door a million
because
times.
your
Not
phone is a double layer and mine's a single when I open it.
That's true, right? Anyways,
Because mine is a square and yours is a rectangle.
all right. So ours are related,
What are you going to talk about?
but almost in like yours is kind of like an external manipulation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the impact on
An internal manipulation.
social perceptions of the perfect body. Right. So we're already getting ideals here. So because these are things that would impact those sports stars and student athletes that are getting sextortioned. So you know how we were like, we don't want to name, we typically try to not name podcast titles something that glorifies the perp, and we try to state the person's names who have been victimized or discriminated against.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes that's not done.
Right.
So sextortion.
I didn't even mention those Nigerian brothers' names. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. But like sextortion to me is so much focus on what they do, and it's the part that feels shameful to the kids is the like I don't like even saying the word sex and extortion about kids in one word. It's a lot of really gross things at once.
Well, kids are doing it.
Right, but maybe it should be like I'm gonna think. I will circle back.
Okay.
Circle back on that. Okay, so anyways, my topic. I'm gonna talk about different types of body shaming. This came up as like a sub thing that we talked about, and I dove into it a little bit more before I was like, oh, I want to talk about it, and there was a lot more than I had even known. So I want to talk about body shaming and the many types of body shaming that exist in the US. And I'm going to kind of try to focus on US because there are a lot of cultural variances around the world.
And within the US.
Right.
And I did the whole BBL topic.
Correct. Right. And part of the reason too is that a lot of the statistics that I have, the US isn't great at gathering statistics around this, and other countries are. Like honestly, the UK, I found so many research articles and data that's gathered by the government.
Love me some UK.
Right. And in the US, I had to work a little harder to find it, and a lot of it was through independent sources, which is great, but it's kind of sucks that it wasn't at the forefront. A lot of it was like news sites with a catchy fact, and I didn't want to do any of that. So this start of this, I just want to give a quick plug here, is actually by a master's in science and master's in arts graduate, Shivani Khanna, who wrote.
I'm proud of you for citing your sources.
Just because there's so much garbage. This topic specifically had so many garbage sources. I'm not afraid to use Wikipedia if there's a lot of really good sourcing. Right. On occasion, not always, but I do. All right. So body shaming is the act of making negative, unsolicited comments about a person's physical appearance, implying how certain bodies are better than others. Pretty broad. So what does that mean? It's when the person's body does not fit in with whatever the cultural or society-based stereotypes are. So here are some of the most common that were reported. First one is fat shaming. So body weight, actually for a very long time through history, having more body weight was actually seen as desirable. So it is very cultural, and it shifts over time. So what we know is that there is no exact standard of what is attractive. The term attractive is socially derived.
There's scientific studies, though, that show that people prefer some kind of facial symmetry.
Right, but symmetry doesn't necessarily mean body weight.
No, I'm talking about just facial symmetry.
Right. Right. And that may be very true. But again, if it's socially supported, whether or not that's going to be leaned into or not, because I think there's probably things that, well, actually, here we go. You had the topic about it was kind of Freudian topic about how
Okay.
no, but that was one of the Freudian topics. Where like the daughters were like
incest.
Oh yeah, that was it. Incest. But that was something that like there was like a huge cultural shift in what was
between daddy's girl, mama's boy.
Right. And then and there was like
big diff
attraction components that were built in, and then socially all of a sudden it was deemed not okay, and then the culture kind of shifted away and it made it like a kind of a behind the scenes thing that still happened. So good point. Very good point. Okay. Moving forward. Not moving on, moving forward. Medical terms. So this is, I hear the most get kind of shot back from this is that, this is about health, is what people say. It's about health. But being overweight is determined by a person's body mass index. The concept of being fat does not mean overweight. So fat is kind of used as the social term for appearance. And overweight is a body mass index, which still itself has a lot of negative connotations with it.
And there's a lot of flaws with
Correct.
BMI that, it negatively impacts certain races.
Right. Well, and I recently got married. I had several stressful life events. I actually lost quite a bit of weight, and I still am considered overweight per the body mass index. So it's something too that I think gets a negative connotation with it. I remember I went to the doctors once, this was probably 10 years ago, and I was playing roller derby actively 3 times a week. That was when I was like the most active. I actually felt the best I had in my entire life. I had muscle mass, I had endurance, I felt good. And the nurse actually told me, you might want to lay off the chips.
How did you know you like chips?
I didn't say anything about chips.
Why did chips get a bad rap?
I just felt so insulted, and it made me think my cousin once told me something like, because she was pregnant at the time. They were like, oh, maybe skip the breakfast sandwich in the morning. Like, there's a lot of assumptions that are made about eating being involved.
Well, one thing I really loved about roller derby is that all kinds of body shapes and sizes could be incredibly athletic.
I have been
incredibly successful.
Laid out.
There was a place for everybody. Tiny little people, medium people, bigger people, tall, short. I mean, we had someone on our team that was 6'4" off skates.
And little short me could come up, deadlift her, and knock her down. But also,
and there was that one little. Well, this one didn't last long. There was that little tiny one that, like she would like sneak out under your armpit. Yeah. Wouldn't even see you go by.
Those little bony elbows hurt, little bruises all over.
Yeah, that's one thing I liked about it is, as long as you could give it your fucking all, that's all that mattered. It wasn't how tall or short or wide or skinny. None of that mattered.
You are full of strengths. Figure out how to use them. Okay. Yes. So anyways, that's that idea. There are also veiled compliments under this category, that enforce fat shaming, which is, did you lose weight? You look great. Mm-hmm. Which is a very covert way of fat shaming, of saying how you looked before was somehow wrong or not okay.
Yeah. I mean, people really need to just keep in mind when you don't compliment people on weight loss unless that person has told you they're trying to lose weight, because they could have an illness. They could be under stress. You don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And, why don't we do the opposite, compliment people when they gain weight? Maybe they were struggling with under eating or some other illness or situation.
I have never
and
had
they're
someone
happy.
ever compliment me when
Maybe now they
put
have,
on a few pounds.
maybe now they have, food confident, not confidence,
Like a healthy relationship with food.
yeah, I mean, I love food.
I read this
so
really
good.
great book once, and it was called Mindful Eating. And it was like a Hastings 50% off thing back when Hastings was a thing. And I read through it, and it was just like how to develop a healthy relationship with food. But it specifically said at the beginning, if you have an eating disorder, basically don't read this book. It might not help. But okay, so okay. So that was something, just for transparency's sake, to say that it happens to most people. After Abu passed away, that was really hard on me, really hard. And I felt weird about that too, because he's like my dog. And I felt like that shouldn't be a thing that impacts me. But I got so many compliments on losing weight initially that I again was also preparing for a wedding, so there was some coupling there, but I felt almost like I had to, I don't know, like it was an assumed happiness with it. And I didn't even notice that I was losing weight. I wasn't eating as much because I was depressed and sad. So being complimented when you're depressed and sad feels really contradictory. And it takes you a little bit to see that happening in action.
I mean, we have a friend, I won't name her, but she's struggled with eating disorders, very serious her whole life. And she has been very outright, like, do not say anything about my weight, one direction or another, ever. It's inappropriate, and don't fucking do it. It's whether I gain or lose, like, it's not helpful.
It's a value statement. So like we all have values that we live by. They are neutral until you attach your moralistic opinion to it. So don't assume your value opinion relates to someone else's. Just don't. It's neutral unless they say otherwise. And then if they invite you into that conversation.
Yeah, if somebody's like, I really want to drop 20 pounds, and I'm really working on it and I'm making all these changes. And then they're like, oh my God, I lost 10 pounds. Yeah, I'd be like, good on you. Like, you are achieving your goal, but that's their goal. Like, we can't confuse our goal with their goal.
Right. So the next one is skinny shaming. So this is on the other side, and I have heard this many times.
I have to say though, that one that's been in the news lately,
I have not heard.
Too fucking skinny.
I have not heard. I have not heard.
Too skinny.
Literally, one of the things here though is that with society saying
I know, skinny. But this one is on social media and is trying to be like an influencer. And there's something wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think that with this, it's not talked about as often, and it's the act of shaming someone because their body weight is less than the society norm. And I think that
too skinny.
Yeah, I mean,
unless you got something health thing going on.
This is her. Regardless, she is clearly an unhealthy weight for. I mean, I've sat and I've watched documentaries about
and she's never said like, oh, I
passed away.
I have some health issue or anything. No, it's not that.
She's glorifying it.
Yeah. I mean,
wow. Yeah.
I worry about her dying, to be honest.
No, yeah, 100%. The body just can't, and this topic isn't about anorexia or bulimia or any
but this stuff specifically, but her being popular, that's going to influence some people to make some really unhealthy choices, and they'll look at themselves and be like, oh, I am too big, like I need to be
Right.
smaller.
Right. Well, and one of the pieces that I will speak to that about when I read more about the skinny shaming um, is that there is the chunk that's ignored about how society has pushed for that for a long time. And it has increased eating disorders and has skewed mental schemas about what's okay. So then once someone gets there, it's almost like it's a never achievable, you can't achieve enough.
Right.
It's either not enough or too much. So I agree there's that aspect and there is that social influence part. However, there's also the systemic issue of larger systems have promoted that in the first place, and then it just gets consumed.
Yeah.
So sometimes statements, just to be aware of, statements saying like, you're so skinny, you got to start eating more. Maybe well-intentioned, but often are on this faulty assumption that being skinny equates to being unhealthy or physically weak. And I would say like this is a really extreme case. I've watched, and as mental health providers, we know eating disorders.
Remember that comment somebody said to me just recently?
Which one?
You were there. Let's not name names. It was completely unwelcome, but it was something like, oh, I should eat a sandwich or whatever.
Oh, yes. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think I
kind of ignored it. And
I was the one that called it out later too. I think I was like, I'm sorry. That was weird.
It was weird
It
and
was
like
weird and awkward and in public.
And why?
Right.
But that shit happens all the time. Like people don't think before they speak.
Well, and I think there is I think certain people do it more. I had that actually fairly happen fairly recently, but on the flip side of that, oh my gosh, look at this picture. Look at how you look in it. And I'm like, I don't want to see you looking at a picture, like evaluating my body. Like that makes me feel really weird. I don't appreciate it. Weird. Yeah. So it's especially like just if you're talking about food, like this is my sustenance, like get the out of my sustenance.
I have a great relationship with food. We are super tight. Me and food.
Me and bread, we're like this.
I do not have a problem with commitment when it comes to food.
No, and honestly, like I am for those who care, if you care, I am out of my little depressive bout that was very appropriate for the loss of my dog of 11 years, my best friend. So I have not had my relationship with food be I just honestly would forget to eat. I'd just be really focusing in on work or doing things like that to distract myself. Now I just like portion sizing is my biggest thing for me. But that's my choice and nobody else's business.
It's not.
Okay, so again, these well-intentioned ideas, just keep them to yourself because really no one cares. So
is that our takeaway today? Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Like unless I hire you and say, I want your help, or I ask for your help or your in counseling.
Or your opinion also.
Right. I was gonna say that was one of my favorite takeaways, I think, becoming a counselor was this idea of well, one, people like to solve problems. We don't like having an unsolved problem, and all of a sudden you're given a position of power to potentially fix something. Did they ask for your help? Well, no. Then don't assume that you have their answer and stop it. Okay, next one is fashion policing. Social norms not only determine how our bodies look, but how to dress them. So some clothing, and this comes up a lot, like I've seen like the people in Walmart videos, right? With how people may dress. I know I'm not
TBH when those first came out, I thought they were funny.
and that's why I'm calling it out because they're very real things
but they can be funny, but then they can be not funny. You know what I mean? Like some are funny, some are like, okay, that's just mean.
And to put it more in kind of, because those things do try to find the most extreme. In a more real life context, it'd be something like, oh, this makes you look perfect. Or like, oh, those fit you really well. And there's an implied comment with that like those make you look a certain way.
Well, I'm a fashion person. I love fashion, so I
Right.
will, even if it's silently in my head, judge people's poor fashion choices.
And I think I think style and fit are a little different because it's
They
speaking
go
to
together though.
They do.
So
They
something's
do.
ill-fitting, it's not going to be fashion.
However, right, and you're totally true. However, if it's uncomfortable and makes me have social anxiety the whole time I'm somewhere because
That's not fashion.
because
though.
how it fits me.
That's not fashion, because fashion is confidence.
No.
Yeah. So if it makes you feel
people
uncomfortable,
are confident enough
it's not
to pull off fashion.
But it wouldn't be your fashion then. That's what I'm saying.
But that's saying that some people aren't fashionable because if
Some
they're
people
not
aren't
comfortable with them.
fashionable.
But maybe they could be.
You could wear
fashionable but not
something
feel confident.
that is fashionable and comfortable, is what I'm saying.
Right. And I'm just going to counter that and say there are many fashionable things that are not comfortable.
Yeah.
Like
And I will.
Heels look great, and yet they kill my feet because I have a foot problem.
Fashion over function, 100% any day, if I have to choose.
Function over fashion. I need to be comfortable because fuck y'all.
But I'm really good at choosing stuff that checks both boxes.
Yes.
But if I'm in a corner and have to choose, it'll 100%.
I go the other way. I'll go the other way with it because for me, I just and sometimes
I was just raised with.
I was raised by a bachelor dad. Maybe that just makes sense. Balance.
Well, I was raised by hippies, but I wasn't talking about them. I was
well, you were rebellious, though.
I was talking about what I personally raised myself with was the fashion aesthetic. That was my ideal, was the supermodels of the 80s. And
again, what that society has kind of prepped you for.
No, I was gravitated towards fashion from a very young age. I idealized those 80s supermodels, like the original, the OG ones, and like so that was always my like beauty ideal, was like very slim and you carry yourself in a certain way and clothes drape and all of that. So I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was 13. That was like, I will do anything to be a fashion designer. That was like my whole thing. I even learned how to sew.
That's impressive.
I made my own dress for 8th grade graduation.
I made a beanbag frog, and it was crooked.
No, I wasn't super good at it, but I still have it. I'll wear it one day.
I still have my beanbag frog. I'll bring him.
I'll wear my 8th grade graduation dress.
I would love that. Love that.
I have it.
Cool.
It's made out of silk.
Ooh, nice.
A tricky fabric.
I've never made an outfit in my life. Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain. Honestly, I've crocheted a scarf, and it's not good either. So
I've never tried crocheting or knitting.
So for me, I think because I grew up like having bachelor dad, Macy, him just putting my hat on backwards, putting my hair up in a fountain, cutting my bangs like a bowl style, going to school, or wearing baggy t-shirts to bed. But then I'd go to my mom's where there was farm and 4-H, and I would show horses. So it was about comfortability. Like if I have to go out there and get dirty, and money had to do with it too. Not having money to buy nice clothes. So it was, you get what you get, often hand-me-downs. And
yeah, my hippie stuff is very like just natural, just like be natural. And just like that was a value. And I think that wasn't what I was totally into, but it's definitely informed. Like I don't wear a ton of makeup. Well, ever.
I definitely have gotten, I would, and I'm not, I'm not fashionable. No one in my life would ever say that I'm a fashionable person. And I like other fashionable people. Sarah is super fashionable. I love it when she tosses on like a fur coat, or fake fur, but still. Like, I really admire that. I've heard people, multiple different people in different realms of life at different times in life say that you are their spirit animal because of how you
I
dress.
value fashion.
I don't know
think
what
it's
that
important.
means.
To me,
I don't know
it's
what that
important.
means.
To me, okay, here's the thing.
And you're glorious in it.
Here's the thing, Macy. Every day is a fashion show, and the world is my catwalk. Will you put that on my gravestone?
Will you text it to me?
Okay.
Yeah. There's other things. I already have a running list of things you told me in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, and the things I've
Hopefully,
been clean out. But...
well, luckily we're recording all this for perpetuity.
Oh, right. Someone will remind me. That's needed. And I think I went from that to like country music is fair 4-H for a stint, but then my dad introduced me to Nirvana and grunge music. So that was went from that to punk, which is a lot of don't give a crap, whatever. But there's fashion within that.
Yeah.
Band, like skateboard, like it's all, there's always fashion. All right, anyways, we tangent.
I used to skateboard. I taught my sons to skateboard.
I believe that
because I used to skateboard.
I looked at your I saw your little video, your skate video today. I watched them when I'm jealous. I'm stupid busy right now. I wish I could skate more. It's gonna snow soon.
I know.
Hopefully not. Unsolicited health advice is the other one.
What does that mean? Like
exercise and diet
here's how to make a smoothie
are healthy. One of the things I often say to people is and I heard it from somewhere, probably some teacher at some point, now I'm regurgitating it back, which is if they sold a healthy diet and exercise and sunshine and a pill, would be the most used drug in the world, just because of how your body would respond to it. And as great as that is, that tends to make people feel like it's so easy that you should be able to do it. And I can just tell you, and that would make it better.
Really feel like it's genetic. Because it is easy for some people.
Right. And there
are some people it's hard.
Right. And some of that has to do for some mental health. Like if you're so depressed that you can't get out of bed, like, yeah, motivation is hard.
Which there's a genetic aspect to all that too.
Correct. And motivation doesn't come first. It comes after. Like you have to do the thing in order to feel motivated and get a little bit enough dopamine if you can, if you don't need medications to help balance that out. So it's hard. And body shaming can be things like, try this exercise, or like, oh, do this. This gave me a flat stomach. Because you're making assumptions what works for you will work for someone else. And again, everyone's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that can lead to disordered eating and exercise, because if it worked for you, why isn't it working for me?
I mean, because of my model ideal, I started exercising and being diet conscious when I was 12 years old. Gosh. When I weighed 100.
I'm trying to think.
100. I remember that I weighed like a little over 100 pounds when I was 12. And me and my friend, we went to LA, and this is when it all started. We're like, we're going to get down to 100 pounds by the end of this vacation. And we limited our eating, and we fucking exercised like shit.
By the way, and over exercising is just as much of a problem for some as
I know. And we did it though. Like we were obsessed with the scale. It was so crazy. I was 12 years old.
And the routine of repetition at that age is so that's a lot.
So I mean that kind of I don't even own a scale now. I don't do that. Now.
You did the podcast topic about the teenagers beating up the person. Like pure influence is strong.
No, we were like, we're gonna do this. Yeah, we're going to LA.
Terrifying.
This week. Yeah, we could be focused on Disneyland, but we're going to focus on dropping those numbers on the scale. And like that lasted for a long time, like that. And then I hit puberty right after that and like gained a little bit of weight. It wasn't even that much, but to me, I felt like a fucking blimp.
Right.
And so that like just reinforced that, this is something I need to pay attention to all the time.
Right.
And like if I stop, like then it's a problem.
Right. Well, and I think that's a good point you bring up. When I was in high school, it was very much, again, like I was fine. Like I've looked at pictures of myself in high school and I'm like, I was fine. But then I remember at the time feeling way bigger than all my friends. And I saw pictures of a few of my friends. And I'm like, no, they're actually bigger than me. But in my mind, and this is where tying in with your topic of adolescence, body dysmorphia, like I think every teenager has some form of that on some degree because of the social influence.
Yeah, every time you look back, you're like, oh, I look great. I mean, the whole secret to self-love is thinking you look great now in the moment, because you do.
Yeah,
you look great.
And I've actually had a big emotional pushback against, because acceptance and commitment therapy, great therapy approach. I've taken a recent issue with the idea of just pushing acceptance on some levels of like.
I'm against it.
I've heard. Okay. I'm glad to hear that, because I've heard some people.
I'm gonna throw my phone. I'm so against it, but I won't, because I've thrown my phone a lot lately.
I've had issue, and it came out in the middle of a session with a client, and I felt like I overstepped actually, because a statement was said that was like, and I just, I know I need to accept it. I need to accept how I'm feeling right now. And that's
maybe
what,
you don't.
And I was like,
maybe it's bullshit.
And I was like, you have every right to be effing pissed. Like, it's not okay.
We're not going to accept racism.
Right. And why are negative emotions being labeled as bad? Like, and I get it's not like the whole point of ACT is like, it's okay to feel that emotion and sit with it.
Yeah, but it's also about not changing the way you think about things.
Right. And which
I
opposite of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is research.
I'm ride or die CBT.
REBT all the way, which is that's it's under that same thing.
Yeah.
Which is that
everything
how we think impacts how we feel and do. And like accepting how you feel may also mean you don't change a damn thing. And sometimes you need to change a damn thing if you want it different.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that's okay. But if you do,
always look at what you can change. And then the scraps left over, that's where acceptance.
Right. If you can't,
but it's usually scraps.
Change things. And I have found ACT most helpful for things like chronic, lifelong pain, things that, and that's, it's good to be able to acknowledge where you're at and what can I do to feel okay.
But still, your perspective matters, and that even.
Right. And then maybe that's part of my issue with this. It feels minimizing of someone's experience. I would too if it wasn't so new. Thank you. Okay, thank you because I honestly I felt a little guilt about it because I saw my because you could see like it has been messaged hard. By the way, let's give you a little counselor thing here. Counseling agencies and providers get on a catchy here's for what person-centered therapy,
the modality du jour,
and I'm like, okay, but all therapy should be we should be person-centered, and they list off what it means. I'm like, those are basic counseling skills. Do you mean Rogerian theory that's different than just respecting where a client's coming from? Another issue, side notes, I don't like the word autonomy. I'm scrapping it. There's no counseling relationship that you get to make all the decisions or I get to make all the decisions. It doesn't happen. It's an accord. It's an agreement.
Well, and more than that, we're the people that are the experts if it goes to court.
Right. There is and that's,
we're going to be the one that's questioned about whatever happens. Right.
I'm teaching an ethics class and I read this article that's by the way, that just doesn't apply. And it creates confusion for people. What do you mean I have
also there's laws.
Right. You get to
there's ITA laws.
You get to violate my autonomy when you deem appropriate or when the law deem appropriate, but you're going to make it sound good when it feels good to you. No, because that's not what it is. We make a mutually binding agreement. You sign it at the start of therapy.
And then if things go in a certain direction,
these are the steps, and
this is what happens, and it's out of all of our hands.
Informed consent. And I've had that go way better than me using the word autonomy. Autonomy sets people up to feel like you've taken something away from them. I've never agreed that you're going to run this. However, I do respect you and I care about your goals and I'm going to try to help you get there.
Right. But still, we have parameters.
Right. But if you say that, you know, cutting your wrists feels better to you this week than last week, I'm not just going to be like, okay, maybe you should do that because that's what you want to do.
No,
that's not what I'm going to do.
We need to talk about this.
Yeah, like this,
because I'm responsible for your well-being.
Right, and that's part of the accord. I'm putting myself on that. Okay, sorry, that was okay. Anyways,
there's one thing I do like about ACT, which is also related to motivational interviewing. I like the values piece.
I do,
and that's it.
I like values as long as values also. Values are neutral until assigned meaning and weight.
Well, I use the values as far as like separating out emotional responses from value-driven responses,
right?
Which is very valuable.
No, I like that too, because that is a specific that's not even really about values. That's kind of even more about like how can you use values to discern between responses for
right. But if people don't even know what their values are, they can't even get there. So I think that's the one thing that's cool about ACT is helping people get in touch with their values.
Well, that's one of the first things that I started teaching that ethics course is like, one, we don't get taught that in high school. So you get these things taught to you as you grow up. Your values get soaked in and you don't know why you respond the way you do. You just do. And one of the first things we teach counselors is, by the way, that's happening. And they go, oh, okay. How does that impact my decision making? How does that
impact? Very little in high school, BT dubs.
I did running start and I won a 9-ball pool championship. And I took bowling for my PE credits.
I got expelled from high school.
I didn't, but
it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Live your life, whatever that be. All right, I'm going to just breeze through these off.
Okay.
Low self-esteem is another one. So our body is really a big part of our self-esteem socially.
Okay, you have a problem with sextortion. I have a problem with self-esteem.
Okay.
I feel like it's a word that means nothing.
Right. Well,
like it's very hard to define.
Sorry, and I even skipped my thing. So effects of body shaming, one of them is low self-esteem. I agree, it's very subjective, right? And I think low self-esteem is also subjectively placed upon you for what that means, if that's what you're kind of getting at, right?
Well, I just don't even know what that means. I know what confidence means.
Mm-hmm.
I probably don't use the word self-esteem very often.
This author describes it as receiving repeated criticism and negative comments about our appearance that damages our self-perception. So what I like about her definition is it does attribute it to external influence, kind of like when you talk about like minority stress theory.
Self-image, I would like that word. I can understand that image. I think self-esteem is like,
yeah, self-perception.
It's a weird word, esteem. Yeah, it's a weird. Isn't it weird?
How I feel about myself. I don't like to feel about myself. Like, what does that mean? I don't often feel about myself.
Oh, I feel about myself all the time.
I just
I'm feeling about myself right now.
I feel good about. I'm not even about myself. I like this present moment because really past and future don't exist.
I know. Be here now.
Be here now. This moment here feels great. Thank you for spending it with me.
You're welcome.
Other things that can cause emotional distress, eating disorders, body dysmorphia for how people perceive their body. 5 ways to challenge this. I just wanted to hit these like positive points real quick. Educate yourself about body shaming and body positivity. There is a lot of stuff out there. Just make sure you look up body positivity first, because it's like when if you look up self-harm for education online, you will find
it's hit or miss.
Some very bad things, unhelpful things. We'll say that. Same thing can come up here because there's, again, social influencers, things that will promote things that may not be helpful for you specifically.
Yeah, I think that's the key for me. Figure out what you want.
Yeah, it's your choice.
How you want your body to be.
It's your life.
And that's the direction you go.
It's your life. There are always consequences.
And it can be difficult to sort out. What is me versus what are the messages I've received.
And consequences is a harsh word too. So even just saying there will be a cause and effect. So if like the social influencer you showed, like health wise, where she is at is not healthy.
Right.
Period.
Right.
There's no way that is. However, she can still choose to do that as a self-determined person up until the point, here's social contracting here, not autonomy. If she is deemed gravely disabled to not make her own independent mental health decisions because it could cause her self-harm. And that's where social influence becomes a problem, because if she's popular and everyone knows her for that, then that police officer that comes up and says, do we, with the DCR and says, let's do an assessment. And she's like, I'm fine. I'm happy. Look, I make money. I have cars. I'm great.
She could still get ITA'd.
She could still get ITA'd. However,
if they look in her fridge and be like, why is there just a bottle of mustard?
I've had to make a call, and it's so hard to do when I'm like, okay, the delusions are so bad that you got rid of anything in your house to cook with, and you have no food, and you're hearing voices that you're saying are right outside your window, but you live 3 stories up. Like, I have to help take care of you. But
we're bound by these laws.
But we know law enforcement doesn't always follow through the same consistently. So my concern is that people who are social influencers or who have money
who have
power may be allowed to get to an extent of if that was my client, they would have been ETA'd 6 months ago before they got to that state. What did I say? ITA'd?
You said ETA'd.
ETA'd. Estimated time of arrival to the hospital would have been same day by the DCR. That's my 14 stalking. So, like, I think there is privilege that comes with that, but privilege that can harm people. Yeah. It's like a weird twist.
Yeah, you live in a bubble, I think, with fame. And that might not be helpful for you.
We talked about with child stars and all of that, and maybe even it hurts you potentially. I don't want to say lesser than or more than, but I wouldn't want that. Other things, speak up. Body shaming can be very subtle. However, most people don't realize that they're doing it. So if you hear it, say something. In that situation we were in, I didn't say something, and I knew it, and I said it to you after because I was like, that was weird. But but it is really awkward. And again, I think it puts a lot of the education bit on the people who are being victimized by it. And that doesn't feel fair, but how else are you going to get something started to get someone to go, oh, I shouldn't say that. I hurt someone's feelings once.
And I'm very, nuanced. It has to be something that really bothers me if I'm going to say something.
Right.
I will let most things go.
Right. Well, I would say that most people don't comment about my body until that happened, and that was so weird for me. And I think having the wedding be lined up was a weird timing because everybody comments on how you look. And it's weird.
And maybe this is a future topic, but every bride I've known dropped weight before the wedding.
Right.
What is that about?
I mean, I will say that mine makes sense for me personally in this aspect of I really liked one dress and they only had that one dress. Yeah. And I really appreciated how they approached it because I was kind of pulled to the side and they said, so we only have this one size. Here's your options. You can have the lace up put in, no problem. Fine. You are close though. So if you did lose weight, you could save $500. My mind, okay, $500. And then I was like, okay. And then, but she said to me, and I appreciated this so much. She said, I would encourage you, and you don't have to, but I would encourage you to pay the $500 for the lace up. Plan on doing that. And then if just so happen you fit it, great. You get a $500 refund. Either way, like, yes, there's money incentive there still, but the way that she didn't, I didn't feel pressured.
But there's more than that. I mean, everybody knows it's going to be photos taken.
Oh yeah, that's what
everybody's looking at you. Like, almost every single bride I've ever known drops weight before a wedding, and I just like would like to explore that.
Weird in general. Like I tried
not for them.
I tried to do even my wedding like at my dad's property. Like there really wasn't that much that was like super formal about it. But even within that, there's like a million traditions and everyone's throwing a million things at you. It is so unhealthy. Weddings are really unhealthy and put a lot on women on the
I had my dream wedding.
Or
I did it once.
Bride is.
I had a dream wedding. It was beautiful. It was perfect.
You can make the dream wedding and it can be with the wrong person.
No, I had a dream wedding and it wasn't stressful on me. It was like actually the whole thing was dreamy and perfect. I wouldn't do it again. I just don't have any reason to get married. But maybe I haven't said this to Paul out loud. Maybe I just thought it. But I was thinking, I guess you'll hear it now, Paul.
Here we go.
That if we make it to 9 years, which is one of my favorite numbers, I thought we could have like a little celebration.
What does that mean?
Not like a wedding, but like a celebration.
Oh, like I see what you mean.
Hey, they said it wouldn't last, and here we are 9 years later.
Who's they?
Me.
I was gonna say I didn't want anyone to say that. Paul, I have been a cheerleader, just so you know. And
it's been 7. So like
she loves you.
9 is like very close.
I feel like you dearly.
I do like a party. So.
She's the vinegar pickle in a jar that's got a tight lid. You know, you gotta pop it with a really thick butter knife.
We're almost to 9, and I do love a party. So here we go.
Here we go.
I would rather do 9 than 10 because
10
is not.
I don't like that number.
And like 9 is one of my favorite numbers.
And it's like one number.
And 10 is not.
10 is a combination, and it's technically 2.
I feel like that's other people's traditions. Just 10. It's not my tradition.
One thing, no, and I was like, do we do like this weird, like at 2 years you do a paper gift? That thing is weird.
I never did any of that.
There's so many weird things about weddings. That's a whole different thing, but whatever. Last things. Reframe negative thoughts about your body to like
CBT.
CBT. Which I think has gotten a bad rap of being like, oh, everyone does that. Because
but everyone doesn't do that.
First of all, not to fidelity, no, and not many.
No, I think most people put themselves down and that's it.
Right.
And then they feel like shit.
Right. So reframing is even just taking like ownership of what your body does. So like it's, I may not be happy that like my arms are like a bigger part of me, but like gosh, I like it.
Arms.
And I like it when I can carry things. I like when my mom told my future husband at the time that she's freakishly strong. That's now a quote I say when I like, oh, you don't have to get that. No, remember, I'm freakishly strong. I appreciate that. I like being able to lift things. So just, whatever. It's part of who I am. And if you don't like it,
I do like my arms. Oh yeah.
So, and I can say like, I feel far more confident about myself, and it's not because of changes to my body. And it was before I had lost weight, and it wasn't because, I remember being in grad school, not confident, didn't feel, imposter syndrome to the max. I had tattoos that I would never let show. So I always wore like a high collared shirt, like in the middle of summer. I would die on a 90-degree plus day wearing a shirt to cover tattoos in my arms if I didn't like them. And a lot of it just had to do with like my fear of judgment. It was so high.
Because people are rude. That's real. Like judgment is real. It happens every day. Judgment
is real, and then also 80% of it's in my head too. And I'll just acknowledge that. That's the anxiety part of it. If it sits and spins and they're not sitting there telling it to you, come and chat with the CBT specialist. We'll be out. All right.
Ride or die,
the very
CBT,
last
yo.
point was considered therapy. There you go.
Oh my God, there you go.
I mean, the nice thing about counseling is it can be find someone you trust, test them out. It's okay. We're okay with that. To have a non-judgmental space to say the things that you don't want to say in front of everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
All right.
I made a cheat sheet.
Last episode, I wasn't here.
I shared about the disturbing history of dentistry. Super good
makes sense for your
episode.
trauma.
Personal trauma. Consider being our Patreon. I mean, don't just consider it, do it. It's only $1. You get access to exclusive videos and a bunch of other cool shit. And if you'd like to leave us a review, leave us a 5-star review. Even if you hate us, would it kill ya?
This isn't our job. So if we seem subpar, probably for a reason. This is what you get after we work. We both work multiple jobs.
The molts.
The jobs. And we help people in many of those settings. And sometimes we don't help and we still try.
But still give us 5 stars.
And we care.
Until next time.
Oh, gosh. All right. I hate going and then because you're second and you drink more wine by this point.
Yeah.
There is a formula here. And then I forget
that we
your
have to
topic. No, what was your topic?
Sextortion.
Oh, that's right.
So I'll say with that one, teens, I know it seems like a really bad idea, but if you're going through something like that, do tell a helpful adult. Doesn't have to be your parents, but any adult that can help you. I promise you it will make things better, even though it seems super scary. I don't know if we have any teens that listen to us, but
can I tell you something
on the off chance
embarrassing I did? Until next time, do not text your brand new husband what you thought you were typing into Google, which was other words for sextortion. Bye.
Gosh. Well, you never came up with
I said ignore podcast thing.
What's your word?
I don't know. I was trying to Google. That would be the wine problem.
You never came up with
I said ignore podcast thing.
What's your word?
I don't know. I was trying to Google. That would be the wine problem.